What's going on, Team Bazooka? We're already at episode 9 of the Bazooka Technical Series, learning Bazooka style kickboxing. Last episode we talked about our right hook or our rear hook. So we're going to talk about the rear uppercut today, which is a good transition from the right hook, is because that back foot pivot is very similar as we're looking at the hook, so it's easy to remember and easy to land. Just as we talked about with our hooks, you can throw them stationary as well as with a step. I love stepping because it closes distance and it brings in the weight transfer. So let's start with the no step first. So the key to a good uppercut is we're working on back foot pivoting. So we want to make sure when you are throwing that rear uppercut, you're looking at that pivot off of the back foot. This transfer here, what it does by turning and pivoting on that back foot, it allows my hip to be thrown into the punch. And the key to the good uppercut is that weight transfer to the front leg. If I'm just standing here, there's no power in my legs. This is why I'm driving off that back calf, loading my hip into the punch and throwing. So I have a lot of my weight on the front leg. I'm not keeping my weight on my back leg. Maybe if I'm exiting and trying to slip a punch or move an uppercut, but for the basic rear uppercut, I need you to get weight transfer on the front foot. So from here, back foot pivot uppercut. As you see, I'm using that leg. I'm not just standing in a stationary position and throwing my uppercut. And that's the first thing you're going to see when you ask someone for the first time to throw an uppercut. They're just moving their arm. So again, the key, back foot pivot, weight foot transfer, and throw the uppercut. If you can see from this position, my elbow is straight. I'm not having my elbow come out. If I'm hitting someone, I'm trying to split this uppercut between their guards. So I have a little window to be able to keep my elbow nice and straight. And just like my hooking, I like to say throw the elbow to where you want the power. Same thing with the uppercut. You want your elbow to follow the hand. This way you get a nice straight uppercut. So here I'm going to do it no step, step. No step, step. Using the weight transfer in my feet, elbow position is down. Talking about hands, remember, if I'm throwing my rear one, I want to have my one hand on the phone. Bang and back. Bang and back. The key thing to remember, the uppercut isn't finished after you hit the target. So I don't want to see this hand coming back down. Keep your hand nice and tight. Bang, right back to my head. The step is a good shot because I can hit the uppercut and move back on distance. Everything staying nice and technical. As you can see, when I throw it, I pull my left shoulder. And by pulling the left shoulder, it'll help you kind of throw that nice uppercut right down the middle. For those advanced intermediate listeners, sometimes it's nice to step off of the center step. And what this step will do, it'll allow your uppercut to land between the defense a little bit more. And we're going to discuss that more when we do partner drilling and our pads, which is coming up next. One of my first ways and favorite ways to isolate the rear uppercut is to use the punch shield. You're going to see consistency with this as we discuss our punches. So we're going to talk about Matt. Matt's a southpaw, so this is going to be his rear uppercut, which is his left uppercut. So first things first, he's going to throw one without stepping. Let's see what he's got. Hands nice and tight, using good weight transfer, and watches, but you can see really he's turning that back foot in order to get his hip into the punch. That's no step. Matt's going to step now, step, and come in and uppercut back out. As you can see, when he steps in, and this is one of the keys I want to show you, when he steps in, he kind of wedges here to block off his center line. So this way it's harder for me to hit, and it hides the rear uppercut. So from here, he's going to mix in, bang. So when he comes back, watch how he kind of comes in with his shoulder slightly in front, which hides the uppercut. To make this a little bit more of an advanced drill, I'll get him to follow with his rear hook after that. The last follow-up to this uppercut, I'm going to get him to throw his lead hook after, which is my favorite to throw, rear uppercut, lead hook. So it's very important to make sure you add in a setup and you add in a follow-up after this uppercut. This uppercut is made to pop the chin and then finish with the hook. Now we're going to bring in Troy and show you how we use little mitts to set up the uppercut. All right, so here's Troy. We're going to use our little micro mitts, a little bit more accuracy when he's throwing it. So we're going to start with Troy in his nice tight shield, keeping his hand position. Start with a no-step uppercut, making sure his elbow's nice and close to the body. Step uppercut, and returns back. Now, it's important to set up the uppercut properly. One of the best ways to set it up is with your lead hand attack. We're going to start with a jab uppercut and just stop there and back. So he sets it up with his jab, follow uppercut. Another good setup is with your hook, follow your uppercut. Let's put them together. Hook uppercut, jab uppercut, jab uppercut. Now we want to finish, like we just showed with Matt. Troy's going to finish with the uppercut. The lead hand, the first hand is going to be alternate. I'm just going to mix it up. Troy will just know, depending on where my hand is, which one he's going to throw. Follow the uppercut. Oh. There you have it, some of my favorite setups and some of my favorite finishes. Troy and I are now, we're just going to mix back and forth using partner drilling as I put my gloves on. Same way, instead of having pads, this is a nice interactive drill because you get to go back and forth. I use this more in my intermediate and advanced classes. So I'm just going to use blocking just to show control. You want to have control for the uppercut, so we're just going to follow with the shield back and forth. I'll start. So this way, it's forcing me to know where my uppercut is. If I can't just throw here, Troy's is going to stay there. I can't land this uppercut, so I have to set it up. So one of the ways I'm going to set it up, I might step out with my left hook to open up my body. And as you can see, I'm throwing my uppercut nice and close to his body. I'm not throwing it from here. I'm trying to get nice and close, pop that chin, and make that uppercut a nice surprise. So Troy and I are just going to alternate back and forth, and I'm going to keep my hand stationary. I'm going to change levels with my punches, make it more advanced. Now it's kickboxing, so let's have some fun. We're going to mix in any combination we want back and forth. There you have it, just practicing, getting that nice angle, keeping your partner just to stand there, and you have to find that uppercut. Good way to think of how to set it up, how to position your body in order to get the ultimate uppercut. So the best training tool for me and for anyone to work on their uppercut is the wall pad here, because the wall bag allows you to actually land the uppercut. It has a little perfect little target for you to work that and really dig and get good feedback that you won't necessarily get on the long bag. So I'm just going to flow with some of my favorite setups, my favorite different flow techniques off the uppercut, to show you guys how I like to set it up. And remember, I like to use the uppercut as a surprise, so don't sit there trying to show it. Mask it with some good punches. Boom! Finish with the uppercut. Find that uppercut. Right away, that lead hook needs to fly. Boom! Then you can go back. Different ways of setting and finishing with the rear uppercut. Okay, so I have Troy on the long bag, and it's a little bit more difficult to land your uppercuts on a long bag because there's no pad. So there's different ways Troy's going to throw it. You're going to notice sometimes he comes more on like a forward angle so he can land his knuckles. Other times he almost scoops the bag and it just comes up. So you can see he's really getting close to that body and landing that uppercut, and he's showing good control. So he's mixing in impact and just skinning the bag, different ways of working the uppercut on the long bag. I want to see Troy now mix in some of his kicks to follow, just to mix in some full kickboxing combinations. Okay, so another perfect bag to work on the uppercut is the wrecking ball. This is because it allows you to get good impact on the uppercut. It gives you the angle in order to, get good feedback and kinesthetic awareness in your knuckle to know how good your uppercut is. I want Matt to keep his nice uppercut nice and tight and show you how he sets it up and how he finishes with his rear uppercut. With Matt, Matt is an MMA fighter, and we have him now fighting, starting his professional MMA career very soon, and a very big weapon in his arsenal for MMA is the uppercut. Because he's a good kickboxer and he's from Bazooka Kickboxing, he really knows that his opponents are going to take him down. So he's going to really utilize that uppercut when people try to shoot in. So here's Matt mixing in that uppercut, flowing the way he likes to flow with it. Now we're going to discuss some of the common mistakes when throwing the rear uppercut. And the first thing is going to be not using your legs. You're going to see a lot of people stay and keep their shoulders very stationary and try to throw this rear uppercut, which isn't loading up the power. You need to transfer that weight onto the front foot in order to get that good power. So as you just saw earlier, that back foot pivot is the key. Allow me to get my hip involved, allow me to get my shoulder in front, and to be able to get maximum power in that uppercut. So make sure you use the legs to get more power in the uppercut. And you got to remember, the uppercut, the transfer isn't coming up. There's a lot of mistakes of people think that you got to sit and pop up. I'm transferring the weight forward. That's the key. My weight is pushing forward and up. Forward and up. So you don't want to think just up, it's weight forward and up. So if you look in this way, it's not up, I'm going forward and up. This way I can transfer that weight from my feet and get more power. The second mistake people are going to make is obviously a common mistake in all punching techniques, is when you're not covering your head when you're throwing the shot. I use the analogy of always keeping one hand on the phone. So one hand on the phone as I throw the uppercut, and when it returns, it's coming right back to my head. Bang, right back to my head. Right back to my head. Don't drop this hand, and don't drop this after the uppercut. Which brings in a third mistake, throwing the uppercut from too low. You see people, like I always talk about the tiger uppercut, where people basically scrape their knuckles and they end up so far. That works well in the fight games, not really much in fighting, or unless your opponent's really hurt. Focus on keeping the punch a little tighter. You don't have to load up the punch so much if you're using the legs. If you're not using your legs, yes, you're going to have to wind up to get power. But if you use good legs, you can keep the uppercut a little bit more tight, and this way you're more defensive. You've got to think more than just attacking. You got to think the defensive side. Keep your hand positioning up. Don't overloop your punch. The other thing is, how do you set up the uppercuts? There's a big mistake on constantly throwing the uppercut from the outside. If I'm throwing it from the outside, I'm open up, I'm not setting it up well. So you want to make sure it's set up really nicely. I like to use my jab, my hooks, and I follow well with it. So make sure you set it up properly, finish after. Think, how do you enter with the technique to land it, and how do I exit to avoid being hit and countered myself. The biggest mistake, which is the last one, is the elbow positioning. When you throw an uppercut, your elbow needs to be nice and linear. Keep your elbow closer to your body. Too many times people throw uppercuts with a lot of weight and being transferred out and leaked out of the elbow. You got to keep that elbow in. The uppercut is splitting a defense, so it's a very little window where you want to do it. In a good uppercut, you want to basically almost skin the body with the uppercut, so the punch comes nice and close where you're skinning the body. Yes, there's long ones you can throw, but for that nice clean inside uppercut, make sure your elbow is nice and tight and follows the hand. there you have it, episode 9, the rear uppercut, a very important weapon, especially for MMA fighters, and it's a weapon not used enough, and it drives me crazy when every time you see an opponent hurt and guys are shelling up like this, fighters are just wildly throwing when all it takes is a nice little clean uppercut. So start looking more for the uppercut, set it up properly, finish after it. It's a very important tool in popping that chin and finishing. You can get many good knockouts with it, especially if you're a good striker in MMA like I was telling you with Matt. As people try to shoot in, it's that perfect weapon. Or if you're fighting a guy who's really good at getting his head down and fighting on the inside, really use that weapon to scare people from wanting to get on the inside. So use it as a surprise, use it properly, and use it with good technique. And that's what Bazooka Kickboxing is all about. So if you're liking these episodes, I'm going to say it again. Make sure you like it, make sure you comment, keep asking those questions, and keep learning Bazooka Kickboxing.